the podcast thing, I don't expect this to be wildly successful, right? The podcast thing's pretty competitive. There's got to be 1,000, 2,000 podcasts out there to compete with, right? So it'll be hard to compete with them. All right, I think I need to do one of these maybe. So what's the point of this? The point is actually first I need a hook, get you hooked. I don't think my equipment's very good. First I need a hook, so I'm going to hook you with something right now. 10 things that will shock you. Number 7 you won't believe number 7. All right, cool. Now that you're hooked, now I got to do an intro for the podcast. So I feel like I need like a sound. Don't have sound effect link in it. So you're hooked now. So welcome. This is now the intro. Welcome to a podcast. Pretty cool sound effect. Hook, tick, intro, tick. What's this podcast about? So if it's not immediately obvious, I don't know what I'm doing, and really, this is just a way for me to get started, just to put something out there. And I guess my goal is just to have some creative outlet. This is definitely not necessarily the thing I want to be making. But if you at least... Oh, my dog's going to be... Shh. Good boy. He wants me to shoot his Nerf gun, which will be that's a cool teaser for... That's a cool teaser for future episodes, that you'll get to see the Nerf gun, and maybe even... There he is. You'll see a little bit of the dog today, a little bit of my pup. Okay. It's not helping the cable. A poodle on the cable makes it worse. So now I know that. But, I find a lot of the time the trick is to just trick yourself to get started somehow and then work out how to make it better later. And maybe, maybe that could be motivation to someone. That's a good thing. Podcasts do that. If you're a bro in the podcast world, you're supposed to motivate people. So they tend to talk about some of the stuff they talk about is a bit more toxic, though. So I'm just going to stick on just get started. If there's something you've been thinking of doing, just do that thing maybe. On the off chance this gets some listeners and you want to leave a comment, or if you're working on something that you're trying to do something similar, you're trying to have this creative outlet or whatever, send that to me, put it in the comments or message it to me. I'll check that out. I'd be really interested to see what other people are doing out there. Maybe if I say a bit about me, it'll give some information for people to interact with. I'm currently living in Australia, but I've lived about half my life here and half in the US, and a couple of other places, and many cities in both of those countries. And like a lot of people, that's the parents' job largely that moved us around. Based in Australia now, that's where family is. Work-wise, the last several years have been doing some medical startup and research type of things. My background's medicine, so in the US, I did undergrad and then went to med school over there and graduated, and during med school realized it wasn't the best fit for me, and so after graduating wanted to try different things, did some consulting for a couple of years, did some teaching, and then the last several years have been startups and research and things like that. And that brings me to this point where, like, a lot of people probably are just kind of craving to have some sort of creative outlet, whatever that might be. And maybe this ends up being that, or something. Maybe it turns into something like, I don't know. But that's how I'm here now, making a really unpolished video to just see where this goes. Please, send me any messages, make some comments. If you've got anything interesting you're working on, send me that. That'd be cool. You know, the podcast thing, I don't expect this to be wildly successful, right? The podcast thing's pretty competitive. There's got to be 1,000, 2,000 podcasts out there to compete with, right? So it'll be hard to compete with them. But maybe next episode, introduce you to the dog. He's pretty cool. He's got a Nerf gun. That's American of him to have a gun as a dog. That's pretty cool. Thanks so much for listening. You've been listening to a podcast. Cool.